Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. It's been another busy week of videos, and it's about to be another busy week of videos. One thing in particular that I am going to be making an announcement video for, probably on this Monday or the day following, is going to be the official start date for Final Fantasy Count Up, which is actually going to be this coming Saturday, which would be what, the 9th? Yeah, the 9th of July and the 10th of July. I'm going to be doing it a little bit different this time around. Last time I streamed all the Final Fantasy games for months straight. This time I'm essentially going to be filling in dead space in my streaming schedule with the Final Fantasy titles, and any of the marathon benefits are going to be active in those given times. Now that's because there are just too many releases over the next 6 months, and I have a feeling January through summer of 2023 is not going to let up either. This month alone, we have Strangers of Paradise on July 20th. We have Live Alive on July 22nd, along with Octopath's Champion of the Continent, or Octopath Champions of the Continent. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out this month, and while, as everyone knows, I'm not like a diehard Xenoblade fan, I need to develop an opinion on it, and thus I will be playing it. August is obviously going to have the next patch, and then we have Harvestella this year. We have, oh man, we still have stuff. What else? Diofield Chronicle got announced for September. Forspoken's supposed to be in October. Star Ocean's supposed to be in October. Valkyrie Elysium is still slated for this year. And I'm sure something else is going to pop up, and there's something I've forgotten, and yada, yada, yada. But it's just going to be such a busy season that I think the idea of doing the marathon straight and just ignoring all of that is not going to happen. So the idea is to, at the minimum, be doing it on weekends. Sunday, really the planned day, but Saturday and Sunday, if time allows, and filter it in whenever I can. Now, on top of that, I'd like to upload all of those VODs to YouTube. However, I learned from the last count up that flooding my YouTube channel with those VODs, not the greatest idea. And for that reason, I'd finally like to make a VOD channel here on YouTube. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the VOD channel needs a minimum of 1,000 subs before I can upload videos that are longer than 15 minutes. If I'm incorrect about that, I'll try to remember to put some text on the screen. But basically, there's a link to the VOD channel in the description to get it the subscribers that it needs in order to be allowed to do that. I'll probably also make a standalone video for it, just to try to get the ball rolling on that, and that is going to be used on the daily to upload VODs. I actually found a system with which it is not a strain on my day, but I am going to have to take a look at things such as muted audio, which is particularly a problem with JRPGs. So there's a chance that some of those VODs may have muted sections, or that I'm going to have to locally record some if I know there will be a problem, or I don't know. There's definitely going to be some problems that crop up, but we're just going to have to deal with those when we get to them. Anyway, I'm super tired, and I'm still working on the Count Up trailer, which I will hope to have on YouTube again either Monday or Tuesday. So let's get into the Q&A. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. They don't have to support the channel, but they choose to. And I'd like to start incorporating a thank you to SteelSeries in my weekly Q&A. You guys don't know how awesome SteelSeries has been to me over the years, and I've mentioned it previously, but I don't really give them enough credit here on the YouTube channel outside of the occasional sponsor message on something like State of the Realm, or even a mention of it in the Q&A itself. So expect me to start popping those in occasionally, because the channel itself is entirely sponsored by SteelSeries. We have a 12% discount code, just Mr. Happy, and I've been using their products for years, even before they paid me to use them. Remember, I'm sponsored. That means they pay me on top of whatever I get from the affiliate link that I have with the discount code. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, thank you to both the sponsors, let's get to the questions. This one didn't have a hashtag, but I could see that it was a question. Hey, Mr. Happy1227. Hi. On 4th of July, 2022, or when the next Q&A session is, you'll be posting your 400... Is this really the 4... How did I miss that? Wait a minute. I have the... It is. This is the 400th episode. Yay! How will you be celebrating? Good job, us. That's how. Got it. Right before this one, I saw a question. Well, it wasn't even a question. It had the hashtag, but all it asked is if I noticed that they lowered Thancred's enthusiasm when he says, "My turn." He doesn't say it like that anymore. So, acknowledging that I saw that comment and acknowledging that I'm upset that they did that. As for the question in front of us, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hope you're having a wonderful day and thank you for the series. You know what? That's collectively a hello. I think that works. Question, how much does item level and your character's level help with older content when synced down? Really interested in how they affect healers and tanks. General rule of thumb is it caps all of the stats to the highest item level, or I'm sorry, to the average item level, the max item level that the dungeon can allow. It does its best to sync down to those values. If any of the stats are under those values, then it'll still be under those values. It's been a while since I've explained it, so honestly, that's not even 100% accurate what I've just given you. The other thing is materia slots don't work when you sync down. I was running Doma at level 67, and the Paladin was using his level 60 artifact armor from Heaven's Ward. Oh no. If they were using their level 60 tombstone gear, that would still kind of be a little but I've done that. I've been in like level 70 tank gear and done like the 77 dungeon, and 80 tank gear and done the 87 dungeon, and survived just fine with really good cooldowns, but the healer does still kind of need to be on point. I always like to say, if you do want to kind of ride the tombstone gear from the previous max level into the next set of tombstone gear, you really need to do what's called staggered big pulls. That's where you start by pulling, maybe let's say there's two portions to a really big pull in a dungeon. You pull the first one and you kill one mob, and then you go pull the rest of them. That way you don't really have to use cooldowns on that first mob. You lower the amount of damage you'll take from the whole pack, and then it also buys time for your cooldowns to come back up. But 60 artifact armor, yeah, no. Well, A, that has nothing to do with sinking down, and B, that's not a good idea. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monkeys? Huh? I feel like D and K are on opposite sides of the keyboard, so I don't know if that's anyway. Yo, hope you had a nice week. Hi, and here's looking for another one. Nice. For you too. My question is more of just your thoughts on a situation, because this angered me immensely. Oh boy. Is this the weekly drama Q&A? All right. Let's see. All right. During my time raiding with my group, I was given dance partner. I'm a Reaper, but main dancer last expansion. Due to giving them more esprit, making... Oh, I already see where this is going. Dancers, just because someone gives you more esprit, don't give them dance partner. Give it to whoever's doing the most DPS. And honestly, if you need to, swap who your partner is, so that way, if someone's doing more damage during a 2-minute window, and thus it would be better suited on them, you can also swap it for 2-minute windows. So our Black Mage noticed that our party damage output would be better if they had it, which I agreed, that the Black Mage was still outperforming me. But the Dancer not only refused to change, but argued that this is what the balance says to go by. No. Black Mage pretty much got kicked out for being right about being the best choice. I myself left a while ago due to IRL things sitting on my mind. Yeah, this had to have gotten more heated than you're letting on. This included like dancers being completely off in their 2 minutes. And so what you're saying is that a dancer who didn't understand how to play the job completely destroyed your static. I hate when this happens. Now, fortunately for me, this has never happened to me. The closest that it's come to something like this had nothing to do with a job or a player who thought they were playing a job correctly. It was two people getting into a fight in the middle of a raid night. That's the closest I've ever seen a static being blown up by one person. And we have some other choice words for the dancer right here. But what would you what do you think about the situation? So I have a motto. If I'm ever in a situation like that, I leave. Because there are people you just simply cannot spend your time on. I had a static back in the beginning of Shadowbringers, actually. And while I went into it feeling like there were pretty good prospects, I learned pretty quickly that what I was hoping to achieve with the group and what the rest of the group seemed to want to achieve actually didn't line up like I thought they would. So by the 3rd or 4th day into the raid tier, even though we hadn't cleared the tier, I knew deep down this wasn't a group I wanted to raid with. There was just too much butting heads, and there was people who couldn't really conceptualize some basic aspects about the encounters, like things that were not super in depth. They just like couldn't grasp it, and we lost hours upon hours upon hours to something that should not have been a problem. And in case you're wondering, I'm referring to, you know what, I'm not even going to tell it because it hurts me to say out loud what it is. I've mentioned it on stream before. And I just knew, so I just left. I didn't cause a fuss. I didn't try to fight. I didn't try to argue. I just left. I just knew it was the wrong environment for me. And that's something I've tried to be better about in recent years. And not just in Final Fantasy XIV, but in general. There's just so much out there that it just fires your senses off in all directions, whether it's anger or sadness, or even honestly too much, like enjoying something a little too much, something that can maybe not be good for your mental health in the long term. I just have learned to exit the situations. That's what I would have done. I would have just been like, at most, the discussion leads to me understanding there's no way they're going to ever think they're wrong. And I just leave. And I maybe tell a story about it to somebody else, and I move on with my life because it's not worth the energy. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, hi, hope you're doing well. You too. My friends and I recently went to the Distant Worlds Orchestra in Atlanta recently. I do that all the time. I put recently twice in a sentence. I do the exact same thing. We all resolved ourselves to play one of the Final Fantasies we hadn't played yet. For me, I've been wanting to play 4 and 6, so I recently bought the Pixel remasters. Do you have any tips or advice? 4 is a far more traditional experience than 6 is. 6 is a lot of open-ended aspects and kind of secrets tucked away. Not that 4 doesn't have them, but I think that 4 would give you a far more straightforward experience and a good story overall. Not to mention that if you do play Final Fantasy XIV, you know, we're knee-deep in Final Fantasy IV references as of late. We even have another one coming in patch 6.2 and probably many more after that. So I'd say go with 4. As much as 6 is my favorite one, I just feel like it's easier for me to recommend that in this particular case. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, yo, Haps. Hope you had a great week. I hope you had a great week. It's been almost a year since the last Air Zaven. I gotta say, I really miss it. Any updates on Ethis or maybe resuming the show in some way without Ethis? So Ethis will probably not be returning to State of the Realm. He is largely MIA. He was dealing with a lot of stuff, and if you followed his content and you followed his social media, you're probably well aware of the things he was going through in his personal life as he occasionally made them public. As such, he made some moves to improve his quality of life, and it's just taken him away from Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I'm not going to go over what those things are, because that's his business, and he's entitled to that. But it is almost no chance he returns. I just don't see it being something that he leans into at any point again, given how he's doing right now. So with that, could it resume without him? Absolutely, but we did ask a lot of Ethis when it came to this, so it's a question that is going to be posed again very, very soon. Will we continue it? So I would just say stay tuned, because the answer is not yes, but we'll find out if there's an answer in the near future. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hello. Hope you're doing well and have a great week so far. You too. My question is in 2 parts, very shortly written too. Given how DSR has increased the bar of expectations for an ultimate raid, do you think we'll get an UU type ultimate for 6.3? Yes. I do not think we see anything close to DSR in 6.3, and quite frankly, I would prefer it that way. 1 DSR per expansion is enough. 1 T per expansion is enough. 1 UCOB is enough. The other one, I don't want it to be easier, but just not so frustratingly, gruelingly long, like the 19-minute truck fest on top of the almost 3 minutes at the beginning of the encounter that you get. I'd like something that is more puzzling and closer to that 16 to 17-minute duration like we saw out of Ultimate Weapon Ultimate. Technically, we saw that kind of duration out of T2, but T had definitely a deeper dive into mechanics. If anything, something closer to T would probably be the best option, but just no wormhole. That's it. Just no wormhole. As for the second question, how far can Square Enix increase the difficulty of future Ultimates before they need to create a higher tier? So there's a common misconception amongst people when it comes to the way that endgame content is designed. It's not always about increasing the difficulty. It's about making sure that your fights are modern, and modern needs usually dictate that you have to play around the way your player base is playing. Now, that does not just happen in Ultimate content. If you look at almost any content in the game, you see them asking things of players that they weren't asking for in expansion before. Remember, A Realm Reborn, I don't think had any split damage AoEs in its dungeon, and then they started incorporating them going into content slowly, and now it's become kind of a standard thing you're expected to do. That can happen with other markers that they add to the game, and honestly, it will probably continue to happen in Savage, in Extreme, and of course in Ultimate. But Fights do not need to progressively get harder. They just need to make sure they're modern and about the same difficulty as they were before. It's a very difficult balance to strike, and I think at some point they will have to openly say this is harder than the previous thing if they feel like they've pushed it to that point. And they admitted that with DSR. But do I think they'll make another difficulty above that? No, and that's largely because the resources that goes into developing an encounter is pretty severe. So the idea of them making another encounter that's a step even above Ultimate just doesn't seem like it's in the cards. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there. Hi. Hope you're doing well. You too. My question is regarding playing Final Fantasy XI. To experience the stories in the game, if you have to start from scratch now. I'm a fan of the Final Fantasy franchise since always and played but not necessarily finished almost all Final Fantasy games. But I was too late to the party with 11. You're never too late to the party. I want to be very clear about that. With the MMOs, you're never too late. You just have to understand that you're playing something that's, well, in the case of 11, you're playing something that's older. So don't expect all the modern commodities you've come to enjoy. How much time grind would a solo player need to just get through the stories in the game, not interacting with endgame world bosses? With 11, it's about a month. It depends, honestly, how many hours a day you have to play and how familiar you can get with the systems. I guess I should say I took about a month, but I was also kind of messing around and doing some things on the side, and there were some stories I hadn't experienced before, so my experience was kind of almost a middling one. Probably take a little bit longer than that for most people who are trying to actually learn the game as they go about it. And do I think it's worth the time investment? I think it's worth not rushing it and making the time for it gradually, because there are some really good stories in Final Fantasy XI, but there's also a lot of sections that drag as well. And if you're somebody who really doesn't have an attention span to read stories, it's only going to feel slower because there's no voice acting in Final Fantasy XI. So I would say expect it to take quite some time. You know, make it a project that you'll experience over a longer period of time instead of doing it kind of blitz like I was trying to do. And yeah, you'll probably enjoy yourself, at least for the story. But please leave before you do anything endgame related. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hi. My question is about Savage. Okay. I've been struggling to beat another Savage tier since E8S, and I find my biggest obstacle is patience. You had the patience for E8. You know what? It sounds like E8S burned what you had left of it, because we all have patience issues when it comes to Savage. We just get over it, kind of, in a sense. Once strategies come out, I find it's pretty simple for me to pick them up, practice a few times, I'm good. I find that, understandably, that's not the case for everyone. Main question is, what's a reasonable time frame, static or PF, to clear a tier? There is no reasonable time frame. The reasonable time frame is when you get it done. You know, there's this misconception, because there are people who will kind of lord over others when they manage to beat the tier. You'll hear a lot of streamers talk about, oh, I beat it week 1, I beat it on the 2nd day, I was world 6th. You know, you'll hear those kind of more direct, impressive, front of the pack feats, and some people like to make that think they're doing it slow. Oh, we didn't beat it week 2. Oh, we didn't beat it week 3. Oh, we didn't beat it week 4. It doesn't really matter. It's just irrelevant. So I'd say when you get it done is the reasonable time frame. I will say that the longer you take in the Party Finder, the worse it generally gets, as the people who are beating it weekly in the Party Finder tend to eventually stop. It's not everyone, but the pool definitely decreases. So the faster you can go, the more likely you are to get an earlier clear in the Party Finder. With a static, it's going to be down to the individual static members and what your goals actually are. Is your goal a week 1 clear? Then it should be a week 1 clear. Savage isn't hard enough to warrant it taking longer than your goal, unless everyone in the group is kind of new to that environment and is just learning how week 1 progression works for the first time. So other than that, though, don't stress when, just get to it. Just so you know, I technically skipped a question that asked, why do I think they're keeping the trial a secret? Is it for this reason, that reason? Honestly, I think it's exactly what we think it is. I just think that they want it to be a surprise that we experience in-game. So maybe even just not officially confirming it kind of discourages people from spoiling how these characters work in Final Fantasy IV. But I have no doubt that we are going to be doing something with the 4 fiends, whether one of them's a dungeon boss. You know, it's another thing, actually, one thing that makes a lot of sense. If Scarmiglione is the boss of Troya's dungeon, it would mean they're likely not one of the trials, which would mean Cagnazzo would be the trial. If they announce Cagnazzo is the trial, I think they assume people are going to figure out that Scarmiglione is the boss of Troya. And thus, they kind of just want that to wash away. I figured I'd just answer that while I go to the next question, because then I thought about it and I had a longer answer. But, whatever. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey there, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope you're well. Same to you. Watch your videos, but I've never asked a question on your channel, so I may as well ask one now. Yeah, let's go. Would there be a job that could be considered the opposite of how Red Mage played in 14, that you are more focused on performing melee combos and having a short magic combo? We kind of have that in some capacities with Ninja. Ninja is technically a melee job, but let me tell you, your 2-minute window is not a melee job. You are just slinging ninjutsu, which is kind of like slinging spells. It's the same in PvP. They just throw ranged attacks the whole time. It's kind of nutty. Some people may even consider Dark Knight to some capacity. It doesn't really work out the way that you're describing, but they got magic. It's the difference between magic and spell casting. And so here's the thing. The answer to your question is yes. There's no reason they can't, because it's their game. They can technically do whatever they want, even if the idea is... I'm not saying your idea is silly, but I'm like, no matter what we may think of an idea, their game, they can do whatever they want. So maybe, but I don't think they'll do something like this. I think they'll be focused more on unique... what's the word I'm looking for? Just unique experiences, as opposed to, well, we did that for Red Mage, let's do the opposite of that for something else, Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey there, Happy. Hope you're having a great day, week, month, and year. Same to you. I have a few questions. Do you think we'll meet the remaining members of the convocation? No, I think we are moving on from that after Endwalker is done. We still have Pandemonium, which again almost certainly is La Habrea and Elidibus, as the two characters we're already traveling alongside at the moment. But I think other than that, we're largely leaving that in the past. Unless it's going to apply to something small, I don't think we're going to be revisiting the convocation much at all. 2, would you entertain the idea that Machinist Hypercharge getting the inner release treatment? I've talked about something like this all the time. I've talked about even just Hypercharge just having stacks and not being 8 seconds. I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah. I've spoken about this before, and it's something I've suggested in many videos. So yeah, that's definitely it. Which OGCD do you think they would cut when they do the changes? I don't think it's a matter of what OGCD they're going to cut. It's going to not feel like the exact same job. So more than one. It's not going to be as simple as they get rid of an OGCD. It's going to be more involved than that. So I'd expect more than one thing to disappear when Dragoon does get its eventual rework. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Fellow Gilgamesh Lalafell here, and always fun seeing you in-game. I was recently looking through your content and was looking for your thoughts on a Pixel Remaster 4.5. Oh, I never did that video. I had forgotten. I love the combo video you did for 1 through 3. Any chance we're going to see your reviews on these? Yeah, probably when I do them in Count Up again. It'd just be more apt to wait to play them again in Count Up than to now rushedly head and do them right now, for example. Probably not going to do that. So, yeah, be on the lookout for those sometime in the coming months. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Happy Monday to you, sir. Happy Monday to you tomorrow. For me, it's Sunday, and I'm going to have tostadas after this. I have an A Realm Reborn lore question. Why does the Empire want to eradicate all icons? Isn't the Empire, after all, created, controlled by the Ascian through Em itself? Meanwhile, in Eorzea, pretty much every realm... I mean, that's the whole point. It's conflict that's being created. By going after all of the icons, they are essentially putting pressure on these civilizations, which is then forcing them to summon more icons. It's supposed to be a vicious cycle that perpetuates war and brings about a calamity. So... That's the mission. I mean, that's Emmett Selk's own mission statement. He's the one who wants to do that because it forces them to put pressure on all the different areas of the world. He knows that it's a boiling pot that's ready to spill over, and he's the one with the flame, essentially. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hi. Glad to see Stay the Realm is back. Me too. We're making sure that we got shows for the next several weeks, and then we'll have to figure something else out while we wait for the next live letter. My question is about the upcoming Savage Tier Day 1 Week 1 prog. Started in Party Finder and formed a group over time with people I liked playing with and cleared. That's very normal, actually. Want to make sure everyone's on the same page for this tier's expectation and goal, so I was wondering about some necessary things. Is Pentamelds for the whole group needed to meet DPS checks? Do you have to prioritize drops to melee DPS? Not melee necessarily. Whoever's doing the most DPS in your group, which should, in theory, be the melee. Does every member need to be nearly optimal in their damage output? No. I listen, my first clears are normally me scraping by because I'm still getting comfortable with the phase. And that's even more true for the first 2 fights, even the 3rd fight. The 4th fight, you want to be as on your game as you can be. But trust me, while I'm getting used to a fight, I'm never, ever at that caliber of play. And most people aren't. Even in most clear VODs, you'll hear people be like, oh my God, I messed up so bad at the end. Or, oh my God, I messed up my 2 minutes here, or this, that, there. And everyone's just thinking like, oh my God, if I hadn't. And then when you wipe at like those 0.1%, people think about those things too. So no, it's definitely not the case. But I'm saying if you are going to do week 1 clears, my opinion here might change. So you asked me this 4 days ago, which would have been before the live letter. We now know we have a week between normal and savage, and that could change how we approach this quite a bit. Number one, if we have capped tomestones and crafted gear the week before savage comes out now, that means that your top DPS should have a tombstone weapon for week 1 of raid. It costs 500 weekly capped tomes in order to buy a weapon. But you'll also need the item from the second encounter. So after the second savage encounter, they'll upgrade they'll buy the weapon, which should just be a 5 item level increase because everyone should also have extreme weapons by this point as well. And then when you beat the third fight, they should be getting the weapon upgrade. That is almost guaranteed mandatory for week 1 groups if you want a much easier time clearing, because I don't think Square Enix is going to balance around that, and it makes a huge difference having, and in this case, an item level 630 weapon on your best DPS to beat the DPS check of the last fight. So this tier is going to be different prep-wise. Now, I will say this, any crafting gear you do have, you should be pentamelding it if you're doing week 1 clears. I think it's uncouth to join a week 1 clear group and not commit wholly to pentamelding. Some groups, I'm sure, do it. It's just my opinion that it would be poor form to not do it. And that's for every single member. I just don't see a reason. There might have like a piece or two that you don't finish, but other than that, I would say that. Also, I would say don't pentameld accessories till after the first fight, because there's a decent chance that you get one if you're like one of the top performing DPS. Like your melee may not pentameld them before until after they beat the first fight. I think that's also fair because you very likely will replace your top DPS will very likely replace some stuff. But as for that, those are just some decent metrics, but that might be a video idea on the way. So just that's my answer. But now I think I got to record some stuff. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, you happy? Hi. Was interested to know why do you and many feel Star Ocean 5 was so bad? It certainly didn't break new ground in regards to its story, but it didn't feel awful. I thought it felt awful. So camera is a big thing. Nauseating. The story, bland, and the whole Star Ocean part, basically non-existent. And other than that, it felt very, how would I put it? Actually, not breaking new ground is a great way to describe it. It's just painfully mediocre. What I say is I've played worse games, but that's not a game that maintains a franchise. And we know it didn't do super well either. So it's, if I played it and then went back in time and told myself what experience I had, would I then buy it again? No. I wouldn't. It wasn't good enough to warrant that. Especially the post-game dungeon. The post-game dungeon was essentially just Necromancer go home. I mean, there wasn't much else to say about that. But I think Star Ocean 6 is looking a lot better. So I'm surprised Tri-Ace got another chance, and I sure hope they make the best with it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Ahoy. Hi. Happy 400th Monday. Yeah, I just learned that myself. I hope you're happy with the achievement. I am now that I know it happened. I would have noticed when I was posting the video, but still. As for my question, with the new addition of a new Savage mode in the form of Criterion Dungeons, do you think there will be a Little World race? Yeah, there was one for DRS. There's definitely going to be Little World races for Ass Savage, as we're calling it. So, yeah, no doubt about that. And I'll be going in day 1 and trying my best to get that clear ASAP as well. What I'm hoping is all the 8-man statics that did Savage for Abyssos just split their static in half and go at it. That's what I'm hoping, my group decides to do, and I'm hoping other groups do the same. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope your day is going well. Simple questions this time around regarding PvP. Hokey dokey. I might do lightning round after this, by the way, because I'm getting really drained. I've been so tired the past few days, just haven't been sleeping great. One, with the Crystalline Conflict season, they really have to change the name of this, coming to a close. No, they don't have to change the name of the season. Series is the one they need to change the name of. But yeah, no, I feel you. What would you like to see addressed regarding PvP in the future? I'm really glad they're individualizing skills for Frontlines, because I think Frontlines balance was ruined by Crystalline Conflict. And I know that you're like, oh, it's a battlefield, it doesn't matter, but it still needs to be fun and good. And I didn't like Frontlines before, and this didn't help. So I just think it would be responsible to do that. But we already know they're doing that. I think that their message about doing too many buffs or nerfs too quickly is actually incorrect. I think it's better to show that you're taking feedback and addressing it more quickly than it is to try to gather it and do it slowly. This is true in PvE also, so I actually would like to see them continue to rapidly adjust PvP jobs in the middle of a season, as long as it's not too straining on them. Now, on top of that, I would also like to see them update the reward structure for ranked. You know, I am going to get downranked to Diamond 5 in a few days, and I'm going to climb back to Crystal. But realistically, other than a plate that shows that I got Crystal in Season 2, is there any other good reason they can come up with to make me at least want to get to Crystal? I think they want to avoid really unique top 100 and first place rewards from this point on, other than the Adventurer plate, because I think they want to put the really cool stuff inside Series, because that gets more people to participate in PvP overall. Now, that being said, I don't know what else they could do, because I think they're going to be concerned about the uniqueness of it. But that is eventually going to be kind of discouraging from ranking up, outside of just the fact that I do enjoy PvP and I want to try the PvP changes. So that's up for debate. We might need to see them make some adjustments to that in the future to maintain interest in the mode, especially in the higher ranks. Are the countdown focus macros used in a Crystalline Conflict considered cheating? No, they're built into the game. Anyone can do them. They don't need a third-party app to do them. No. Me and another teammate were tagged with a red cross circle 1 and 2 mark after dying, which I would assume as flame from the person who set the mark. If they just mark you once, it's probably not bannable. If they are constantly marking, unmarking, it could be, yes. You could try to report, but I doubt it would do anything just for being marked once. Thanks for your time. Hope you have another good week. Hey, you too. All right, like I said, I'm actually getting really, really worn out while recording this. I actually could keep going. The video is going to go on for quite some time even after this, let's be real. I'm just feeling tired, so I want to lightning round the rest just to make my life a little bit easier in the editing room. Not that it's hard in the first place. Let's see. This one, joy of having a good breakfast to start off the day. Thanks to a more convenient work schedule and looking to try some new things. What's your ideal breakfast spread? I'm simple. I like an all-American breakfast. 2 sunny side up eggs, hash browns, and some toast with a little bit of butter on it. Salt, pepper, some bacon on the side, or some sausage. Not both. I think that's a little overkill. And that's a good time. It's simple. It's not fancy. If you want to do something fancier, you could do eggs in a basket. That's where you actually cut out a hole in a piece of bread, and then you put the bread with the hole in a frying pan, and then you crack an egg in the middle of it, and then you flip it over. So it's essentially toast with the egg cooked into it. You can make a sandwich with 2 eggs if you want to do 2 pieces of bread instead of putting the eggs on the inside of the sandwich, or you could just put something on top of it. You know, you could put your hash browns right on top of it. You could put another egg on top of it. I mean, you can do stuff with that. It doesn't have to end at just cooking it that. But that's a fun one. That's really, really simple to do. Eggs in a basket. This one is Happy July 4th. Happy July 4th to you too. What do you think of the Emilion's custom delivery hinting that she might be a puppet master? We've had hints for puppet master before. I think nothing of it. As much as I want to, and I definitely said that when I was watching it, we've had plenty of cases before where controlling puppets and mammoths is something that we've seen other people do. So I want it, but that doesn't, to me, register as any more of an indication than anything we've seen in the past. Let's see. Do you think that once Pandemonium is wrapped up, we'll see the end of the Ascian Ancient story? I mean, we have seen the end of it. It's just about giving more depth to La Habrea as a character, because he's kind of the one unsundered that got no love or interesting plot details. And so I feel like Pandemonium is just trying to kind of wrap that up a little bit and give us a little more insight into Elidibus as well. So no, I think we're largely done with that. I think we'll only revisit it in pieces occasionally, but not as like a main plot point. Hearing you talk about a Corsair style job made me think of armor sets, how they could fit with scouting. Should they get rid of scouting already? No, I think I'd rather see them add jobs to scouting than get rid of it altogether, or work on the loot system so that having so many gear sets isn't as much of a hindrance as it could be in the past. So no, I don't think there's any point. Getting rid of a gear set is not going to do any favors. I don't think. Itching for a new 14 statue. When do you think we'll get another one? I don't know. I don't buy them, so it's definitely not a consideration for me. While doing the job quest for Dark Knight Machinist, I found an arena in Ishgard called the Ishgard Proving Grounds. Do you know if this was an area used? Wasn't that used in the Scholasticate? I think that's used in the Scholasticate side story quest after you've done Hildebrand. I'd have to double check if it's where I think it is, but yeah, pretty sure that's the Scholasticate. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Got 2 questions for you. Now they have request repair. What's the number 1 feature you want put into the game? I don't know anymore. I banked on saying request repair for the rest of my life every time I got this question. So now I'm all thrown off. I have no idea what to even answer for that. With the announcement of the Crisis Core remaster coming, do you think Dirge of Cerberus will get one? I think so. Not that I'd be excited about one. It's it's not a very good game. But at the same time, I think they do want to bring the entire compilation into the modern day, so I do think Dirge of Cerberus will get one at some point. Okay, there's a question here that I tend to just not answer these kind of questions, just because at this point I'm trying to lightning round, and these ones require a lot of thought. It's one where you've been teleported into a post-apocalyptic universe where everyone's being eaten by zombies. Genie tells you can make any 3 collector special edition. Oh, honestly, I have an answer for this one. I wouldn't ask the genie if I get a genie that said, hey, you can have 3 collector's editions, I'd be like, fuck you. I don't want this. What the fuck kind of genie? Get back in the lamp. You're going back in the lamp. I'm tossing the lamp in the ocean. What a waste of my time. I wouldn't even be excited. Like, especially in a post-apocalyptic zombie-filled universe. I wouldn't be excited if that genie popped up now. Not to mention then. Let's see. Think about shorts, more about their format being vertical like phone videos. Yeah, so most of YouTube's viewership is mobile. I think they said it's like 80% or more is viewed via their mobile app and not at PCs. So that's the main reason why those are like that. They're built for the phone right off the bat. So you kind of have to do some things to make them look okay, but I think it's worth it kind of in the end. Question could be a lengthy one. Well, I may not have time for it then. Let's see. Is there any lore implication why we could not get a job of this nature from the Tonberries? If so, and what? New job ideas, speculate, new job. The Tonberries are... wait, my brain is going wild. Called Rancor. I mean, the Tonberries are scholars for the most part, or they were other jobs that we already are. The Rancor is part of their curse, so it's not tied to a job stone or anything like that. They haven't made a job stone of any kind, of any capacity that they could use for that. So yeah, there's no job stone for this. It's not built in. There's not like a stone of memories that would be used to pass that along. It's just a curse. So yeah, there's a pretty significant lore reason as to why we wouldn't have that. Let's see. Happy to report they're all hooked. Ask for your advice on helping 5 first-time MMO players through the game. 3 of them are an Endwalker. 2 of them express interest. Nice. Steps you suggest for the smoothest transition into endgame for first-time MMO players. I mean, this is just, they need to get to max level. They need to do all the dungeons. They need to learn what the gear progress is, and then they need to hop into extreme. That's it. There's no way to do it in Final Fantasy XIV except to just do it. You go into Extreme, then you go into the first Savage, second Savage, third Savage, fourth Savage. You got to go in order. That's all there is to it. It's a little easier when there's a brand new patch, but other than that, it's very, very straightforward. Played Final Fantasy IV for the first time. Really enjoyed it, but now I'm a little disappointed with Endwalker. I thought I was going to be playing an original 14 story, but I kind of wasn't. Endwalker's story is nothing like Final Fantasy IV story. There's a few references, but that's a weird take because we thought, in fact, Yoshi P even said recently, he's like, I know people probably thought there's going to be like a lot of Final Fantasy IV, and there really wasn't, because there wasn't. So, I don't know how playing Final Fantasy IV detract from Endwalker because you thought you're getting original, because you got a very original story to Final Fantasy XIV. So I don't even know how to answer that realistically because they're nothing alike, the two games. How difficult do you think mechanically the Savages will be for the dungeons and format? I think they'll be gimmicky. I think it'll be very punishing to fail gimmicks. And it's not going to be about traditional, like stack and spread and, tank buster and heal this person to max and Asuna this debuff. I think it's going to be some really gimmicky stuff about the dungeons themselves, maybe traveling down like 4 different paths simultaneously to do a mechanic and you all have to reach the end of a hallway and flip a switch, but there's AoEs firing down it, and you have to kill an ad at the same time, and one ad has to be done by the tank, and two of them have to be done by the DPS, and you have to figure out which one is which, but there's no way you'll know the first time you do it. I think it'll be a lot of stuff like that. That's what's going to test it. And if you fail, you have to start the whole dungeon over. Not to mention, if you go too slow, everything enrages. So I think those are going to be more the aspects that you're actually looking at. I was wondering if any TOS-friendly ways of telling people they don't deal enough damage. No. Just leave. Just the only thing you can do is if you're in a learning party and you see someone struggling, safest way to do it is like, does anybody need any advice or help? Or you need to ask like generally something like that. Like, does anybody need anything clarified? Does anybody have any questions? Excuse me, any questions? You gotta do something like that. But otherwise, no, you can't be like, hey, your damage isn't good enough, because how would you know? You can tell, trust me. I can tell when someone's not dealing enough damage without a third-party program, but that question always comes up if you're gonna say that. Joy doing Savage raids, P1 to P3 week 1. Didn't get any drops. My question is, how can they improve loot systems in Savage? Honestly, I don't think there's much more to do to improve loot in Savage. I think the only thing, and I actually talked about this recently, is after a few weeks, they could make it so that, or even in the odd-numbered patch, they can unlock it earlier, or they can make it eventually just drop one of every possible piece. So every accessory from the first fight, you know, head, boots, and hands always from the second fight, legs, head, hands, and boots from the third fight, and then body and a weapon from the fourth fight. I think, honestly, that's about it, because all you're going to do is either unlock it earlier or add more coffers. You're not going to get anywhere else. What's going on, Haps? With Sunbreak being, I was curious your opinion on Rise as a game. I like it so much more than World. World, I got burned out on super hard, and honestly, I didn't even buy Iceborne. I couldn't. I was just so burnt on that game, and the way that it was structured. Rise, I've enjoyed a lot more, both from a gameplay perspective and an endgame perspective. The only thing I don't like in Sunbreak is Shigaro Magala, because I think he's a jerk. It just jumps around too much. I hate monsters that just jump around nonstop. Espinas kind of like that as well, but for some reason, Espinas isn't as annoying as Shigaro Magala. I don't know what it is. Anyway, man, there's so many questions. Good thing I went into lightning round early. You think the Manderville weapons will be winners from the community weapon contest? No, because, I mean, here's the thing. Even if one step was, it wouldn't be all of them. And there's usually like 4 or 5 different appearances for relic-style weapons, so they wouldn't be all of them no matter what. I also don't know that there was a winner for every single job. So, no, I don't think it's going to be the winners of that. If not for anything more than one step at the very most. Then let's see. Thumbnail looks like a pretty dope mixtape cover. That's fun. I think we're at the end here because it's all just like just a few things. There's a question here with the recent 16 interviews. There wasn't going to be any cross-media content. The entirety of the game was going to be in the game itself. Made me think of the possibilities of cross-media content for 14. We have some cross-media content for 14 already. I mean, we have the lore books. We have the on-website, the Tales of things. There's even a book with some exclusive Tales ofs. So we do have cross-media content for 14, but I'm a fan of limiting cross-media content. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's fun, but most of the time I'm playing the game. I want to be able to know about the game by playing the game, and that's it. That's all I personally want. And I think that might be the last question. Yeah, that is the last question here, unless I missed one by accident. But I got through that lightning round in about 11 minutes, so that wasn't all too bad. I'm going to like my own video while I'm at it. You can't stop me. It's my video. I can do whatever I want. But anyway, thank you for watching this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Ask your questions in the comment section of the video below. And be on the lookout for some streaming-related announcements. And also don't forget to check out that VOD channel and the sponsors and all that good stuff in the description of the video. Anyway, I will see you next week. I'll see you before that, but for this, I'll see you next week. So until then, arrivederci, bye-bye, good evening, good morning,